Well, good morning, dear, and welcome back. So, today we are going to discuss about a very interesting topic in machine learning or subcomputing. The topic name is genetic algorithm, as you see here. eh. So, genetic algorithm is based on genetics and organic evolution, but we are inspired from them. As such, there is no relation between biological organic evolution and genetic algorithm. Morphologically, no similarities, but thematically, lots of similarities are there. That's why I thought that I should take a digression and go back to my class 12 level where I took biology, and actually I am very thankful for that decision. I love this topic of organic evolution. Before that, we must tell you that a genetic algorithm, the way we'll learn, is used heavily for optimization. Okay. So what is optimization? By this time. So genetic algorithm is an optimization tool. So, when you have data or a problem, and you will have to uh, means you cannot model the optimization problem using conventional method, then you should go for a connexionist model, which is genetic algorithm, which will give you a great result. Okay, so there are two things which you need to do to apply genetic algorithm. One is you will have to encode the problem into genetic algorithm form, and then evaluate. So this encoding of the problem is very, very interesting, very, very important, and then evaluation using genetic algorithm is very important, so that you will, after decoding, you will get the correct result of a problem, optimization problem, right? By the way, why genetic algorithm? Because I told you it's an optimization technique. Then you should raise your voice. A lot of optimization techniques I know already, right? Some of the optimization techniques which you have already learned is called, one is linear programming. Linear programming method, where you have a objective function. By the way, mostly in engineering application, our optimization problem is constraint optimization. That means whatever the problem might be, there will be some constraint. Huh? Let us take an example. Say you are trying, using linear programming method, you are trying to optimize the production cost of a software. So, production cost of software involves man, material, then machines, mean computer, okay, and then time, then ambience. So all kind of things are required, okay, and they are not abundant in availability, right? So they are all constrained. You have resource which is constrained, right? So, for example, I do not have more than, say, 1 crore rupees or 1 billion rupees to develop that particular product. So I cannot hire endless people. I cannot spend money for hiring a very sophisticated, ultra sophisticated office building. So everywhere I'll have to see what is minimum cost I can incur. So this is actually, so if it is you are using some optimization techniques, so you'll have to formulate the problem. If it is cost problem, cost of production, then there will be lots of constraint. If the cost of production problem you formulate in the form of linear equation. For example, say one feature is there is 2x x1 plus 3x2 plus blah blah blah. Okay, so xi. So these are the features. Say n xn. So this could be man, this time, all kind of thing, right? And they are all constrained. Okay, xi cannot be some. It can be written in the form of a function, say g. Normally, this is a good practice. Some threshold, right? Threshold value t. So, as many features are there, that many constraints will be there. So this is a typical, a optimization problem structure look like, right? So if it is called cost of production, then this optimization function you need to minimize. But if you define a profit function as an optimization function, then you'll have to maximize profit. So maximize the profit, how to manage people, money, then time, and all kind of things in such a way that you can maximize profit. Sales return, right? All kind of things. So this is a typical optimization problem. If this objective function equals to f of x is linear in nature and all the constraints are linear in nature, then we call the problem as linear programming problem, and we can solve using, say, linear programming problem solution methods, maybe simplex method, and there are graphical methods, all kind of methods are there, which you already know, so I am not elaborating. So this is linear programming. Then geometric programming or quadratic programming. Quadratic programming. There, the optimization function is quadratic in nature. Okay, so say 2x1 square plus plus 3x1 minus 1, this is equal to, say, 0. Okay, so this is quadratic in nature. If the objective function is quadratic in nature and your constraints are linear in nature, then it's a quadratic programming problem. Okay, this is another optimization method. As you know, recently you have studied the support vector machine, where the classification task were formulated in the form of constraint quadratic optimization problem, isn't it? Just recapitulate. So I have two features. So this is the width of the gutter. We are trying to maximize the width of the gutter. So we formulated the problem in a quadratic. So we had, the parameter W, then we have parameter B, if you remember. So these are the parameters of the problem, and we formulate that classification task as a constraint quadratic optimization problem, and then we wanted to maximize classify the two samples belonging to the two classes so as to maximize the gutter width, and in between this was our decision boundary, and in doing that we could ensure that misclassification rate will be minimized. So this is quadratic programming method, which is another optimization method. Then there are dynamic programming. Then we have stochastic gradient descent algorithm, stochastic gradient descent algorithm, which is an optimizer. So if you have an objective function, you run stochastic gradient descent algorithm and you figure out the parameters. So all this kind of so many optimization methods you have studied in your engineering curriculum. Then you may argue, why another optimization technique? The answer is, simple answer is, when all the method fails, you do not know the nature of the object, exact nature of the objective function. Neither you have exact idea of what could be the constraint, right? In those cases, genetic algorithm is the solution. But do not go to solve, to use genetic algorithm when you can easily solve the problem by modeling the problem using linear programming method or quadratic programming method or dynamic programming method, or you have an objective function which is very good, say quadratic in nature. Quadratic in nature, that means you have only one kind of optima, these or these. Okay, so there you can use stochastic gradient descent algorithm. Don't ever go for using genetic algorithm, because that is not the purpose of, because genetic algorithm is being a connectionist model, requires computation. It will have beautiful solution, but not as precise as linear programming, quadratic programming, dynamic programming. So if you can solve the problem, optimization problem using this conventional method, fine. If you cannot, then you go for genetic algorithm, which is wonderful tool for solving a problem which is very difficult. As I told you, it's very difficult to model in the conventional way. So what do we do then? We look to the mother nature and we see how, starting from a single cell, how a complicated machine like us evolved in the nature, mother nature. And there are lots of theories, okay, and some of them I will just briefly I will tell you, okay, because only thing concept which is required to be understood from the perspective of genetic algorithm, only those things I will try to discuss. Other detail is left for biologists, okay. So genetic algorithm is an algorithm which tries to take inspiration from Mother Nature. Mother Nature, in Mother Nature, you see, starting from very crude, very one single cell creatures, Mother Nature has given birth to as complicated machine as human being, okay, and everywhere it did optimization and betterment, and this is called organic evolution, and this is a dynamic process which is still going on. So if we somehow know and can emulate that in our formulating our optimization problem, then perhaps it could be great, and that is exactly what is done in genetic algorithm. So let us take a little digression and then go back to our organic evolution, right? So as I told you that so many millions of years the life on Earth evolved, right? And people try to explain how the evolution is happening, and in that process, you see, Lamarck, Jean B. Lamarck, during this era, he tries to see physical changes in the organism and try to give an idea that how the changes are taking place and how it is propagating to the offspring. So according to his theory, that giraffe was like this when plenty of green grasses were available on the ground, but somehow nature, there was some changes in the nature, there was scarcity in grasses, and then to have food, it had to eat the leaves from the tree, and more they eat, more taller the tree grows, because tree doesn't want that somebody will eat their leaves. In that process, that to reach to the food, the today's giraffe neck is so tall, and every time some changes happening due to the changes in the environment, the offspring, it transforms, the changes is um, actually inherited to the offspring. Okay, that was his theory. It's good to have a simplified explanation, but unfortunately, the theory could not stand the scrutiny of the scientific proof. For example, people, to see whether his theory is true or not, the mouse tail were cut, and generation after generation, it was seen that as you are cutting the tail, the mouse are not the mouse offspring are not born with cut tail. They are having again the tail. Similarly, if you are a muscle man, so your that muscle building will not be transferred to your offspring, who will born as a simple child, okay, baby. So all these many experiments actually were done, and Lamarck's theory failed to withstand the truth of experiment. But nevertheless, it was his idea. Then Charles Darwin perhaps gave the fantastic, after exhaustively collecting samples, traveling across the globe, and he gave his theory of organic evolution. Okay, 1882. This is his lifespan. Okay, he believed that in the process of natural selection and survival of the fittest, and these are the key ideology which is still very very strong, and they even are to some extent true in explaining the organic evolution. So what he told? He told that every species has enormous reproduction capability. However, in the mother nature, you have constraint of food, limitation of food, and other ambience required. Okay. So, among the offspring, there will be struggle for existence. Right? One will try to survive by replacing other. Right? And this thing you can see in dog's puppy. Nowadays in the campus we see lots of them. Right? Littering of the puppies takes place, and only one or two survives. So, because there is scarcity in the food, and nature select who will survive and who will not survive, right? Who will survive? Those who can fight, and in the struggle for existence, who can fight and win the race, okay? And those who are winning the race are considered as fittest. So, natural selection means nature decides who will survive, who will not survive. It depends on the fitness of a particular individual. Okay, so these are the two key differences between Lamarckism and Darwinism, right? So that natural selection, huge reproduction, struggle for existence, survival of the fittest, and this survival of the fittest gradually, the fitter and fitter persons, they give birth to a optimal fittest species, right? And this is a ever-changing process according to Charles Darwin. However, Darwin variations were gradual, small, and directional, but it was actually afterwards proved by another scientist, okay, Hugo Divis, 1848, 1935, more modern. He told that inherited character is not transferring to the generation after generation and they are giving birth to newer and newer species, not like that. According to him, that uh, inherited mutation caused variation and they are random and directionless, sudden. It's not gradual. Okay, and he experimented with evening primose plant, where his plant has lots of flowers, and then he cross-pollinated among the different colors, and he observed that in the next generation, some altogether different color appears, which is different from the colors with which pollination, cross-pollination were done. Okay, so according to Darwin, this inheritance, they will inherit the parents' character, right? So either they will be of this color or this color if they are cross-pollinated, or this color or this color if they are cross-pollinated, if this color or this color, but completely different colors sometimes exist in the next generation. So he called, this phenomenon is called mutation. He told that, okay, the changes takes place in body cell as well as in genetic cells, which is responsible for reproduction. Okay, in case of flower, it is the pollens, were genetic cells. Okay, so in the genetic cells, if there is a sudden change, then the species changes takes place. Okay, so that was his idea. So he gave a new concept called mutation. It's just like, it's a vague analogy I'm giving in your atomic theory. Okay, so Dalton's atomic theory was there, that every cell, the electrons are revolving around the nucleus, right? And it is only afterwards that it was revealed that, okay, electrons, then according to classical angular momentum theory, then electrons should ultimately, because of rotations, and they'll ultimately come down to the nucleus, but it's not happening. They are stable, right? So Bohr's model, Niels Bohr, told that quantum theory, he gave birth to quantum theory, right? That electrons can jump from one cell, so each cell has a discrete energy, and if an electron is excited beyond some threshold energy, it will jump from higher to lower or lower to higher, as the case may be. Okay, so it's quantum, jump is quantum, it's not gradual. Okay, that explains the stability of a atom, right? Similarly, Divis told that mutation is the cause of the evolution of the species, newer and newer species, newer and newer species. Okay, because otherwise, if you believe Charles Darwin theory, then it is hard to explain why, if the gradual changes are taking place, then why the other species still remains. For example, man, if man evolved from ape, right, still these apes, gorillas, still they coexist. So this could not be explained by Charles Darwin, right, which could be explained by Hugo Divis, because he told that if from a species to another species, evolution will take place drastically if mutation takes place. Okay, so that was his idea. And then afterwards, you see, Gregory Mendel, contemporary, he did extraordinary experiment with green peas, okay, to see that how the genetic, and that's, if he is considered as the father of modern genetic engineering. He gave the concept of how the characters actually transmit from one generation to another generation. And that we are going to explain in my next lecture. So today we have got what optimization is, where to use genetic algorithm, and we took a digression to explain a little bit about organic evolution. Okay. and where we discussed about Lamarck theory, Darwinism, Darwin theory, and then Divis theory, which gave birth to nutrition. Charles Darwin gave birth to the concept of natural selection, struggle for existence. All these concepts will be very useful for our modeling our problem in the form of genetic algorithm. So stay tuned, and we'll start from here in my next class. Have a nice day.